Hey, let's shift to basketball and do our CougarBoard question of the week to get us going in these final few minutes with Kristen Kozlowski. If you're not familiar with CougarBoard, it's the largest online community of BYU fans, thousands who post daily. And this question comes from Durandal, one of their insider subscribers, so we're going to give it to you. BYU was fortunate to ward off a late game rally against Kansas State, but these types of rallies by opponents in the second half seem to be a pattern. Why do you think BYU is giving up these scoring runs, and what do you think they can do to try and limit these going forward?
Oh, that's a great question, especially taking on UCF tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that one became very close late in the game as well, where they went on a stretch. I do think that it can be a number of things, and it's just based on game to game, depending on what runs. You know, we saw in that Kansas State game where BYU went on a 6-minute run where they hadn't scored a field goal. And sometimes they aren't as proficient at getting to the free throw line as I think we would like them to, but that's not a huge part of their game and what they do. But I think it can be a difference of rotations and maybe other players on the other team going off. We saw Kaluma go off in that Kansas State game, and then BYU couldn't quite respond to that or, hit the shots. But when you really look at it, I've been impressed with BYU's ability to hold them off defensively and make enough stops to keep their lead, and then at the end hit big time shots. And this is what BYU does. They've got a team full of guys that'll hit big shots. Jackson Robinson hits that 3 late in the game. Spencer Johnson, the awareness to just dribble out the clock, and then they try to overplay him on that play, and he gets in there for a layup. So the maturity of this team, I think it's the game of basketball is built on momentum, and you're going to see it with BYU. You're going to see it with every team. It ebbs and flows throughout the course of the game. And this is no different with BYU, but the maturity that we've seen and the experience that they have this year, I don't think they win some of those games where teams come back like they would this year compared to last year.
We talked about this on the air the other night and off the air. First of all, Spencer Johnson, I love the fact that when we asked him, he said, well, yeah, when I dribbled through the paint, I noticed nobody was in the paint.
Yeah.
So when I came and turned around and I thought, nobody's in the paint. I'll just go right back in the paint and finish. And it was like parting of the Red Sea. So that's that experience you talk about. So he's dribbling out. He notices, why are they not guarding the interior? This is where I'm going to score. He knew that.
Yeah.
Right? But you're the one that brought this up on the air. And you said that sometimes to close out a game, you got to make free throws down the stretch because the other team's playing so aggressively defensively that they're going to foul you. And so you're not getting shots off. You're getting fouled. So the way you have to score from the free throw line, and I don't know if you can remember the number because you told us on the air.
It was 4 for 12.
At the end.
BYU went 4 for 12 in the second half at the free throw line.
Yeah, you pointed that out, and I was like, well, there's in that game, and you said in their game specific, in that game, it wasn't so much they couldn't make a shot, they were getting fouled.
Yeah.
But
which is a good thing, right? Because teams are going to overplay them.
Right.
That's the game plan. That's the scout. BYU's a 3-point shooting team. Let's run them off the 3. Let's make them make long twos, put the ball on the floor, make tough shots inside the perimeter. But if they're getting fouled, they're taking the contact. That's even better. And part of that's the inside game with Foose, right? Right. But I do think, to your point, it's like we got to hit more free throws.
And then I think we decided that 3 of those were the front end of 1-on-1s. Mm-hmm. So that's the equivalent of going 4 of 16.
Right.
Or maybe not quite that, 4 of 15. So all they have to do is make free. So is there something they could do differently in preparation that they can make more of those free throws down the stretch that are important?
Well, I think it's all mental. By the time you get there and you're at this level, it's a mental part of the game. And sometimes that can be contagious, where you see a teammate step up and they miss the front end of a 1-on-1, or another teammate steps up and then the other guy feels maybe just a little bit more pressure, whether they acknowledge that or not, or realize in their head, oh, well, it's getting tight. I got to knock this down. But BYU did enough early, which is what we talked about. Mm-hmm. They've done enough early in the first half. Sometimes they don't start too strong, but the gut of that first half, the middle of the first half, BYU did really good in terms of stretching out that lead, hitting shots, getting into a flow, so that it carried them when they were in a scoring drought of that 6 minutes, no field goal. Yeah. And then they were able to close it out with their defense. And their defense and physicality coming into this year have been the biggest changes that I've seen, along with, I would say, that maturity and experience with these guys. But you have to be able to defend. And what they're doing with their defense, they're not going to be up pressuring you the whole game like we've seen with some of these teams, these tough defenses like Iowa State or Houston or But this is a BYU team that's smart defensively, and they play into those strengths, and they pack line it sometimes, and they get in those passing lanes or driving lanes and just do a really good job not over gambling with who they have.